Hi everybody, welcome to Watchoholic, a safe and friendly place here on the web for anyone with an incurable addiction to all things horological. I am your host, YouTube's Stuart Russell, fresh from a haircut as you can probably see. And in this video I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about movements and complications. We've spent some time talking about the anatomy of a watch and the various component parts that make up a watch in the last video. So now it's time to get on to movements, because the movement really is the heart of the watch. It's like the engine in a car. So movements come in a variety of different flavours, and this list is not designed to be exhaustive, but I will go through the most popular kinds, the most common kinds of movement that you will find now. So first up is quartz, fairly commonly found watch movement. It started off obviously in the 1970s with the digital revolution. And a quartz movement is powered by a battery that will need to be changed usually every couple of years. You'll usually get up to a couple of years life out of a quartz battery. You can usually tell a quartz watch because the second hand ticks rather than sweeps, and I'll put some B-roll on here just so that you can see what I'm talking about. Quartz watches are generally very accurate, and they're also very convenient because you don't need to set them in the morning. They just run constantly until the battery runs out, so you don't need to spend any time setting or adjusting the watch in the morning. You can just grab it and go. Next up is the mechanical movement. Now, mechanical movements are as old as the hills. They've been around since pretty much the 14th century. And they are far more traditional in the sense that they are made up of cogs and springs and oil. And you charge the movement by winding the watch crown, and that introduces energy into the movement that's gradually then released and powers the hands via something inside the movement called the mainspring. The disadvantage of mechanical movements is that they require regular winding in order to keep the watch accurate. And you do also have to be very careful not to overwind the movement, as that can damage the springs. Automatic movements are just like mechanical movements in the sense that they are also oil and cogs and springs rather than electricity, but with an addition. Automatic movements have a large weighted rotor attached to the movement that spins around as you move your wrist over the course of the day, and that helps to charge the mainspring. So automatic movements don't need regular hand winding in the same sense as mechanical movements. Both mechanical and automatic movements have something called a power reserve. That just means how long the watch will run for if the movement is fully charged, and then you put the watch down and don't touch it. And these days, modern automatic or mechanical movements, the power reserve is usually something from between 40 to 80 hours, depending on the kind of movement. Automatic movements also come in two additional varieties. There are hacking movements and non-hacking movements. Hacking simply means that when you disengage the crown to set the time or the date, the second hand will stop turning around. So you can set the time very, very precisely. Cheaper automatic movements tend to be non-hacking. That just means that the second hand will continue to turn when the crown has been disengaged. So it's a little bit more tricky, a little bit more fiddly to set the time accurately. The average automatic movement is accurate these days to around plus or minus a few seconds a day. And speaking of accuracy, you may also see some watches described as being COSC certified. That simply means that the watch brand has submitted the movement to the official Swiss Chronometer Testing Institute, and they have certified the movement to be accurate, and I'm reading this off the page here, sorry, just to make sure that I get it correct, accurate to -4 to plus seconds a day. So some people think that that's perhaps a little bit of a marketing gimmick, but I personally think it's quite nice that there's a standard that exists there for accuracy. And it's worth noting that less than 3% of all Swiss watches are COSC certified, so it's certainly not meaningless as a standard. For the purposes of this discussion, I don't really want to get into smartwatches. They are undoubtedly popular with a certain kind of person who really needs to see their emails on their wrist at any given time of the day or night. That is not me, so I'm not really going to spend any time on them here. There are also various hybrid movements out there that are battery powered, a bit like a quartz, but have a sweeping seconds hands, as well as solar powered movements that convert the sun's energy to electrical energy and power the watch that way. Again, I have nothing against those types of watches, but they don't really do it for me, so I'm not going to cover them in any detail at all here. Plenty of resources out there for you in the web if you want to get into those kinds of movements and what they are all about. Another quick comment as well on movements and servicing. Now, if you buy a reasonable brand of watch, regardless of quartz or automatic, generally it's a good idea to have that watch serviced on a regular basis. Probably when the battery requires changing on a quartz watch. With an automatic or mechanical watch, generally it's very, very hard to offer you up a benchmark for when watches should be serviced, but some manufacturers say something in the region of about every 3 to 5 years. You'll probably notice when the watch requires servicing because it may start to lose time or gain time substantially. It's usually lose time out of the two options, and that's usually a good point at which to go and have the watch serviced. You can have it serviced through an authorised dealer if you bought the watch from a jewellery store. You can also have it serviced through a variety of independent watchmakers, independent companies who are out there who will offer that service for you. It's a little bit like a car. You know, you can take the car back to the main dealer when you want it serviced, or you can take it to a smaller independent. It's horses for courses, really. I don't have any particular preference. I tend to use a couple of people who are smaller independents because I know they do a good job. Servicing basically involves removing the movement from the watch case. The watch case will probably also be polished, and any little scratches or dings in the case will be remedied and put back to original condition. The movement will be removed, as I say. It will be stripped, it will be cleaned, and depending on the watch brand that you buy, sometimes the watchmaker will change the hands. Sometimes they may even change the dial if there's any particular marks on the dial over time that are causing you an issue. But generally speaking, if you go through an independent, you're likely to pay less than if you go through a main dealer for servicing. But it is a very, very good idea to have your watches serviced. As I say, you'll tend to know when it needs done. The watch will tell you. But it's a good idea to do that because a well-serviced, well-looked-after automatic or mechanical movement really will last a lifetime and beyond. So there you go, everybody. Everything that you ever wanted to know about movements right there. Apologies for the continuity cardigan. Sorry we didn't get enough time to deal with complications in that clip. I will try and cover that off in the next clip that I do for you. But I hope you find that useful. I will also put some links to some useful resources in the description of this video. As always, if you would like to like this channel, if you'd like to subscribe, all the details that you need are right down there. That'd be very kind of you to subscribe if you will. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining me again, and I will catch up with you very soon. Thanks, bye bye.